Hope it's working pretty good. I'm just gonna play right here. I'm gonna adjust it for it to be in a good spot. Hopefully, it's a good spot. I don't know. I have to test these things out. I'm gonna watch this video once it's done processing and uploaded. I'll watch it. I'll watch it back and see how the sound is. I'm really curious to see how it sounds. Tonight I'm doing a movie review plus plot and characters and all that stuff on the movie called 28 Years Later. I believe it's the third installment of that type of movie, 28 days, 28 weeks. I believe this is the third one, and I really enjoyed it. I watched it on Netflix recently, and it's scary. It's scary. I did like pause it 3 times because I didn't wanna watch it because it's that scary. The the zombies themselves are scary, they're very, like, active and pretty sick, and then they introduce the alphas. There's these alphas that, like, are huge, and they're a lot stronger and they're harder to kill, and you're just like they're just terrifying, right? So the movie itself, it has some really interesting edits. It does have like it's well made. It's I would say like it's a high production movie, but it has like some of the cuts and some of the edits make it feel it has like an indie feel a bit to it. It doesn't surprise me because of the director, but overall it was a brilliant movie. It kept me at the edge of my seat. There was so many terrifying moments, and by the end of it, halfway through the movie, it takes a really big turn in the story, and it's even more terrifying because of what happens, and what's going on, and then at the end of the movie, it's not a happy movie. I'll just say that it's not a happy movie, and it has an open ending to it. So it begs the question: is there gonna be another one? It'd be interesting to see because it's been set up for there to be another one, or maybe not. But so I'll tell you how it begins. I'll go through like the first half of the movie, then the second half of the movie, and I'll tell you some of the things I saw that were really interesting. Things to detail that I saw that were really interesting. So the movie begins. It's the Scottish Highlands, and there's the infection broke out, and you're in this house, and it's like it starts out in this room, and it's these kids watching Teletubbies, and suddenly there's like noises, there's thumps, there's like people kind of arguing and like yelling at each other, and the mom comes in, puts in the kid. There's like 6, 7 kids in this room, and one of them is Jimmy, and he's gonna play an important part, kind of like this mysterious part, but he's actually kind of a bookends to the whole movie in the beginning and the end. So it starts with Jimmy's like perspective, and so this thing is outbreaking, right? And Jimmy is the only one that escapes that house. Everyone gets like bitten by these zombies. The kids get slaughtered. I mean, and what you see is like the Teletubby on the screen, the Teletubby show on the screen. There's like blood flowing across the screen. Very creepy, horrific way to start the movie, just straight into it. And Jimmy, he runs out. He's a little boy. He runs out, and I guess his father is a priest, and so he runs out to the church where his dad is, and his dad's there, like kind of praying, and it's his dad is like crazy. I mean, for a priest, he's like I guess maybe a lot of them were aware what's going on, and he's one of them, and he's just like he's accepting it as like the what do you call it? Like what do you call end times, I guess, and he sees it as being saved. And so Jimmy's like, "Hey, we got Naomi in the house. What up? What up? How's it going? Does it sound pretty good? Let me know if it sounds good. I got this nifty microphone. This is the first thing that I got to improve, the YouTube thing. So I'm hoping it does a good job. So let me know in the comments if the sound sounds good. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Naomi, thank you. So I'm talking about 28 years later. A great movie. Great movie. If you want to get thrilled, you want to be at the edge of your seat, you want to be horrified. This is the movie to watch if you haven't seen it. It's on Netflix right now. So Jimmy, he runs this church. He meets with his dad. His dad just openly accepts the zombie apocalypse. It's like part of God's plan and a weird salvation thing. And so he gets like he just openly accepts being attacked by zombies, and he's like screaming like yes, yes, it's hilarious. And Jimmy, and before he gets attacked, the father gives him a golden chain that's got a golden cross on it, and that's going to play a role later on. And this is what I mean by bookends. Like Jimmy is like a bookend to the movie at the beginning and at the end. um, but it's kind of curious because when the movie starts and it jumps 28 years later from that moment on, so what happens is Jimmy hides like somewhere underneath the floors, and there's like a grill cage thing that's like separating him from the zombies, and that's kind of where it ends. And he says the last line Jimmy says is, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" It goes black. It goes to like 28 years later. There's like a few words that come across that say uh, Britain has been infected. Europe was able to contain it and push it back, and they quarantined Britain, and I believe where like when it jumps 28 years later, it's in like the Scottish Highlands, and there's this island that's this village is now there. It's a very fine community. They have sheep. They have all kinds of animals. I'm sure they have farms. They have like a fortress they built. They figure out ways. Hey, I appreciate it, Naomi. Thank you. So they have what this village has a way of like living in harmony, and everybody seems to have their place, and it seems like the women do their job and the men do their job. What's up, Aubrey? Aubrey in the house. Aubrey Mama. What's up? How's it going? Appreciate you stopping by. I'm talking about the 28 years later movie. I'm going through the plot right now, but I highly recommend it if you're looking for a good scare, just a good movie overall. I thought it was well done. I really enjoyed it. So when it skips 28 years later, it focuses on this family, which is Spike, and his father is Jamie, and his mom is Isla. And there's this guy named Sam. It's not clear who he is. He could be a grandfather or just I don't know. They didn't really explain who he was necessarily. And so and what's special about today at that moment in the movie is it spikes in this village. They teach their young kids how to use bow and arrows, and so the kids, when they're like a proper age, like 12, or and Spike is 12, and like 12 or a bit older, their fathers take them outside the island that they live on, and they go to the mainland, which has been quarantined. It's all infected. And it's kind of a coming of age kind of thing where they have to teach them how to defend against zombies. And so he's going out to kill his first zombie out in the mainland. And so you're like nervous, right? Because he's a 12-year-old boy. It's his first name. So you're just kind of getting nervous for the character. And so since they live in this little island, it helps them, you know, better quarantine themselves from off the mainland, which is like infected by zombies, right? And it's really interesting because this island, it has like a bridge. It's not a bridge, but it's like a causeway, like a they must have built it. But when the tide is high, it gets covered, and when it's low, you can walk across this causeway and get to the mainland. It's really interesting, and I think that plays a part later on too as well. There's this lots of the European navies, they surround the island, and they like keep tabs on the island. They ride boats, and I think what happened was later in the movie, there's a boat, and they said they hit something, and I bet it was the causeway, and it caused them to like leave the boat, and they got like the ocean pushed them against the island. They got stuck on the island, and their fate was sealed. But this is later in the movie. So you have the father, Jamie, and young Spike, who's 12 years old with a bow. They both have bow and arrows. they're going into the mainland for Spike to learn how to kill zombies. He's got to do his first kills. And so they're walking around the forest. They encounter a zombie, but they call them slow low, a slow low zombie because they're like really fat, and they're really slow. They crawl on the ground. They're pretty quiet, and you see them crawling around eating worms. And so they encounter one of those. They encounter a slow low, and they're gross looking. They're just fat looking. I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know if they were like originally just fat people and they turned into zombies, but they're just really slow and really big. And so Spike's nervous. Spike's pretty nervous, but he's listening to his father's guidance. He's able to like point his bow and arrow and shoot. Pretty good aiming. Shoots the what they call the slow lows right in the neck, just, and just like blood comes like gushing out. And and unbeknownst to them, because they're so quiet and they move so slow, there's actually one kind of like right behind them, and there's another one like coming at them, and there's like a little kid version of them. But and so the father is like, he steps back a little bit to let Spike do his thing, and then eventually he sees that one crawling up towards them, and he kills it really quickly, and he kills the other one that appears. And so they're like, okay, we got to get a move on it because all this noise and commotion is going to cause other zombies to come. And there's like much more crazier zombies that are like really fast acting. They'll run towards you really fast and get you. And so they get a move on it, and they come across a huge herd of like deer or elk or something, like an enormous herd, right? And they're just like, they don't really pay much attention to it. They're just kind of like on their way. And at this point they're like, okay, Spike, you got your kills, let's go back home. But on their way back home, they encounter an area of the forest that looks like there's a dead elk or something, right? Its guts are all over the place. The dad recognizes immediately that zombies were here, and he notices something interesting. There's the head of the deer has been like ripped out, and its spinal cord is still attached to the head. And like, I guess that's the sign that the dad recognizes that's an alpha zombie that was here and did that. That's almost like a sign from the alpha, a signature move that the alpha zombies do. And these alpha zombies are enormous. They're huge. They're like WWE wrestlers. I mean, they're huge. And it's later said that the reason why some zombies get big like that is because the infection works like steroids, and it just makes them just bigger, bigger, and bigger. So you get these alpha zombies. So they're in the area. They see the deer as a warning. The dad is kind of freaking out, and they're like, Spike, we got to get out of here. Like, we got to go right now. You got your kills. Let's go home. And they're on their way home. They have to cross this field. And as they're like making their way across this field, they see in the distance, like in the background, they see like silhouettes of zombies appearing. And then you see this enormous, giant, freaking alpha zombie appear. He's like twice the size of the other zombies, right? And you're just like, oh my god, this is terrifying. And they're pretty far. And the father's like, all right, hold still, Spike, do not move, right? But at that point, like, they were seen. And so the alpha like gives out a big yell, and then the zombies start like moving forward to run after him. And the father's like, okay, we got to run back in the forest and hide because we're screwed if we don't. So they go hide. They're being chased, and the zombies, they catch up. The alpha stays back. He's just standing there, but the rest of the zombies go forward and like run after him, and they're already on their tail. And like the dad is like shooting him with the bow and arrows, and he's telling Spike to shoot him, but Spike is so nervous that like when he shoots, like like early on, you're taught to shoot him in the head or in the heart to stop the zombies. And he's so nervous that he can't do it. He like shoots one in the leg, he misses one, and so the dad's like doing most of the work. And but they get too close to like for him to like have time to like shoot him, so they're just running, and they run to a house. And as they're running, he's like killing them, and they run up uh to the loft, to the attic of the house to hide. and they barely made it. They barely made it just in time. And at that point, you know, the zombies are like looking for them. They can't figure out where they are, and they just kind of like they spend the night there. Now, I did miss a scene though. Before all of this craziness happens, there was a house they looked at prior, and there was a zombie. Hey, what up? What up? Thanks for coming back, Naomi. But there was a zombie. There was a guy they found that was hanging upside down. He had a bag over his head, and in his chest, like carved in with a knife, it said Jimmy. And so if you remember, like if you pay attention to the movie, you remember the kid character named Jimmy, and you're just kind of like thinking, oh, like what does this mean? You know, like what is this? Like you're pretty sure it had something to do with that kid, right? So, anyways, once they're in this house and they're hiding in the attic, they stay the night, and Spike has these like weird dreams. And as they're sleeping, the huge herd of like steer and elk or deer, whatever, they're just like running through like the little neighborhood where the house is, and the whole house starts shaking, and like because it's an old house that's already kind of falling apart. I mean, the whole thing starts like caving into itself, so they have to leave the house. And so you're just terrified because you're like, man, okay, they're hiding from zombies, and now they have to leave the house. Like it's crazy. So they're forced to leave the house. It's like it's just caving in itself. And so they're out there, and it's like it's still morning, it's still night, but it's like coming to morning. And the problem is the reason why they can't return back to the island is because the tide went up. And when the tide goes up, there's no way for them to get across on the causeway. It's this little strip of like natural land that connects the island to the mainland. And of course, the tides, when they come in, you can't go through it. And because the ocean current is so strong, they can't necessarily like be in the water like deep. They have to wait until it's low enough for them to actually walk on this causeway. So they leave the house, and the dad's like, the tide's low enough for us to go. Sample of ham. Can you scream? I mean, maybe, but when I was watching the movie, I got close to screaming. It was pretty terrifying. Um, but I'll give you a scream at the end of this video. How about that? Um, but yeah, so they're making their way back. They're running because they know the alpha's around. They know the zombies are there. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. I promise. So they're on their way. They're walking the causeway. They're making their way towards the island. They're running. At some point, they realize, okay, they make it like a bit over halfway through the causeway. It's a pretty long stretch of like natural forming like pathway that's there. And so, and there's these little, I don't know what to call them, like awnings or something that every so often they appear. And so they can align using the awning that's been built. They can align to see where the path is. But as they're making the way, they're kind of celebrating. But as they're making the way, the alpha zombie starts running after him like a madman, like full speed, just like, and you're just terrified. You're like, holy fuck, they better start running. And they don't notice it at first. And so they're just kind of like joking around. And then the father turns around because he's hearing something. And there's this weird, all these like crows that are like, they follow the alpha. They like appear out of nowhere, and it kind of freaks out the dad. And then he's like, oh my God, we got to get out of here. So they start running. They're like running for their lives. And the alpha's right behind them, just like, and he's just catching up to them, right? So Spike and the dad, Jamie, they're running. They're running towards the gate to the village, and they're yelling like, "Open the gate!" He's got a whistle. He's blowing the whistle, and they're both running. Spike falls, and then dad's like, "Get up, get up!" And the kid's like, "I can't, I can't." He's like frozen in fear, and he's just like dragging Spike. He's just, "Get up!" And he's like, they get up and they run, and the alpha's like, he makes it past like the halfway point. He's just running full speed like a football player or something, and they're just terrified. They're out of bows. They don't have any more bows. And so he's yelling, he's like, "Open the gates, open the gates." And like the alpha's like just gaining on them, like getting closer and closer, and you're just getting terrified out of your mind. He's like, "Oh my God, they're gonna die." And Once they get close enough to the fort and they can hear the whistle and the guy yelling like "Alpha, Alpha," everybody wakes up and they like turn on these lights and they like ready their bows and they start shooting at the Alpha and they hit him and he falls over and he's just like he's not even that far away. He's like 20 feet away. He's like really close to them. And they start running, like they're getting really close to the gate and they shoot more bows at the Alpha. And then finally, one guy has this huge, like spear shooting thing that's like lit on fire and it hits the Alpha right in the center and he goes like flying back. But the Alpha was this close to reaching Spike and the dad. Like he was right there. He could have like snatched him up. And so the Alpha goes down with this huge spear in his chest, and the father's like, open the gate. And they won't let him in at first because they don't know if he's infected or not. And so he's like, look in my eyes, they're pure. And he's like, look at Spike's eyes, they're pure. So they look at their eyes for a minute and they let him in finally. And then it cuts to a party scene because it's Spike's return from killing zombies, his first time going to the mainland. He saw some things that he never saw before, like a frisbee. He didn't know what a frisbee was because they're so out of touch with the modern world. They're living like old farmers. And so he's learning about the world that exists around them, and but he's like fascinated. But anyways, at the party, yeah, I'm going over the 28 years movie. I think like review and plot and characters and all that. It's on Netflix currently. It's where I watched it, and like I said before, I had to stop it 3 times and walk away because it was that terrifying. It was just terrifying, but I enjoyed it, even though I walked away from it and had to pause it because I was like, this is too much. This is terrifying. I just it was enjoyable. It's a really good movie. I highly recommend it. I give it a 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10, whatever you want to say. But really good. Really interesting. It's different, and so they finally make it to the village. We're almost getting to the halfway point of the movie. They throw a big party for the kid, and the father's like on stage. There's music, there's beer, everyone's celebrating of the success and the return of Spike and and the dad's on stage telling these stories. Like he killed the slow low, and then we got attacked by 8 zombies, and like they were chasing us, and he was killing them right and left. And he's kind of lying at this point. He's lying, and he's like kind of he's embellishing the story to make Spike look like awesome. He's like really proud of his son. He's trying to make him look even better. But the son is like, that's not what happened. He's being really genuine. He's like, that's not what happened. I was scared. Like when they were chasing us, I couldn't even hit one. Like I hit one in the leg and I kept missing. I like was frozen. I was so terrified. That's what really happened, right? Um, but like so Spike is like a little like, why are you lying? And at the party, and while everyone's like celebrating Spike, they put him up in a chair and they're just like dancing. His father actually kind of escapes the party, and there's this lady named Rosie, something like that, where they have like a sexual encounter. And the kid is like looking for his father, and he kind of like spots his dad, kind of like hiding a little bit, like in a hallway or something in a corridor, and he sees what he's doing with this lady, and he's just like disgusted by it. So he like returns home. He's just like, who's my father? My father lied about what happened. Now he's like sleeping with another woman. My mom is like at bed. He's like, she's sick, and this is what he does. So he's just like really disgusted with his dad. And so he goes home. He doesn't feel like being at the party. And so Sam is there, this older gentleman. Again, they don't really clarify who he is. But I'm assuming it's his grandfather, and they have a little chit chat. Like he confesses that like, yeah, like this is what really happened. I froze up. I was terrified. I got a slow low zombie, one of those slow crawling zombies. But the actual zombies, I couldn't handle. It was too much. And then they bring up his mom, how she's like sick and whatnot, and her like his mom has like real confusing mental issues, and you don't know what's going on with her, but it's pretty serious. And so they're talking about it, and like he brings up the fact that while they're in the attic, they could see through and kind of look around. He saw a fire, um, and and he tells Sam, he's like, "I saw a fire. Do you know what that fire is?" And so he kind of mentions that there's this kind of crazy doctor. He's kind of a loony, and once he says doctor, Spike's interest goes through the roof because he's like, "Oh, there's a doctor? Like all this time, everyone's telling me there was no doctor. Like, we need to take my mom to go see the doctor. We got to save my mom." And Sam's like, "You know what? I shouldn't really talk about this because your dad wouldn't want me to talk about this." So, like, he like goes to his mom and like embraces her, and he falls asleep. And in the morning, the dad shows up, and he just kind of makes up a story that he like fell drunk in the wheat fields and like just like was there all night sleeping, which is probably not true. He probably slept with that lady and whatnot. But he's there, and like Spike can tell that something's off. He's been lying and he cheated on his mom, and so he's kind of disgusted. And he confronts him. He confronts his dad. Like he's like, first he says like, like, what do you think was happening to mom? Like, is she dying? Do you think she's dying? And like the father is kind of really disgusted with that line of questioning, and then he brings up Rosie, the girl that his dad slept with. And at that point, the dad is like really pissed. Like that crossed the line for him, and he slaps Spike in the face. And he's like, "Oh shit, I didn't mean to do that." Like he's just terrified of what he did. And Spike is like, "I can't believe you just hit me." Like he runs away to his mom. And then like when the dad comes upstairs to meet with them, he's like, "Get away from us." He pulls out a knife at his dad. He's like, "Get away from us." The dad takes the knife like without hesitation, and he's like pissed. He's just pissed. But he seems like to be a level-headed dude. He's not like savagely like like a violent person. He seems to like really want to be a good father to Spike. He takes the knife away and he like folds it and gives it back to Spike. But Spike's like, "Get away from us. Like, get out of here. Like, you disgust me." And so the dad leaves and he punches a hole in the wall because he's pissed. And he leaves. And then like the following morning or sometime during the day, um, Spike makes a plan to leave the village with his mom to go see that doctor that's out there in the mainlands. And what he does is he starts a fire in one of the little like barns. And so it takes like everybody who's guarding the door. He goes up to the gates and he's like calling everybody, "Come out. There's a fire. There's a fire." Like everybody has to come down and like help with like putting it out. And so the guards come down, and like the gates pretty much no one's watching it. So he takes his mom with like supplies and bow and arrows and stuff. They actually leave the village. And in your mind, you're like, "Are you insane, kid? You could barely shoot a zombie, and now you're leaving with your mom who's like sick to go to the mainlands where it's like infected with zombies." Like you're just terrified out of your mind because you're like, "What are you doing, you stupid kid?" And so and he kind of tricks his mom to get her to go to the mainland. He's saying like, "We're gonna go to the beach and have a day there." But he takes her like further deep into the mainlands, and when she realizes, she's freaking out. She's like, "What did you do, Spike? Like, what, you're gonna put us in danger? Like, this is crazy." And Spike's like, "Well, we can't go back home now because the tide is up, and we can't cross the causeway. We can't use it, so we have to stay here." And so the mom is freaking out, and Spike is like, "Look, there's a doctor that's over there, that I heard about, who does the fire. There's no doctor around. He's the only doctor we know of. Like, I want you to go see him because I want you to get well." So the mom finally is like, "Okay, let's do this." And so they make their way to a church where they spend the night. And during that night, Spike is like on guard. He's like watching to see if anything comes up. What's crazy is they're in this church, but it's wide open. There's no doors. Anything could crawl in. They could be attacked by 20 zombies easily and be taken out. So it was just confusing to me that like he was so just so, what do you call it? what's the word I want to say? He was just really dumb about that, you know? So he falls asleep, and there's a slow low, one of those slow fat zombies that crawls on the ground, and he makes his way slowly to Spike, and Spike's there laying on the ground, sitting. He's like sleeping, and those slow crawling zombies, they're so used to eating worms that the zombie sees the shoelace and starts like chewing on it, and he's like, the zombie's like, that's like that's not a worm, you know, and then notices the kid and starts crawling like to the kid, and the zombie is about to like open his mouth, right, like take a bite out of Spike's face. And you're just like terrified. You're like, oh my god, that's it. He's dead. It's over. They fucked up. And out of nowhere, the zombie's head gets like bagged and like beaten on like on the cement, like the church like there's like a, I don't know what it is, but it's just like a, uh, I don't know, just like, I don't know what to call it. It was like a table or something, like, you know, like a table or something, like this a concrete table or something, and it's getting its head bashed, and then like it cuts to the morning. And Spike wakes up and he's like, he sees the zombie that's been bagged and like the head's been bashed, and he's like, what happened? Because he has no clue what happened. And the mom kind of like doesn't know either because she's like out of it. She comes and goes. She like she'll be normal for a little bit and then she'll lose it. She's just confused. She's in and out. But at that moment, I guess she wasn't confused. She was actually herself, and she beat the crap out of the zombie, and she didn't really recall. She didn't remember it. And so she's confused too. But she's the one that killed the zombie. And so they keep traveling, they move on. They as they're making their way towards the fire, they see a big chimney of smoke. That's where the doctor is. It cuts to, and we're past the halfway mark of the movie. We're like kind of getting into the other half of the part of the movie. It cuts to a group of like a unit of Navy officers, like men that were their boat hit something and it got stranded, and they got stranded on the island. And so there's about eight of them, and they're being chased by zombies. And as they're being chased, they're like shooting back with their machine guns. But the zombies, there's so many of them, they get overwhelmed. Two of them fall immediately, they get bitten, and then one's trying to like shoot him, and he gets bitten, he gets attacked from behind. And so at this point, there's like only three left, and they make their way into this tunnel, and there's this gate that they're able to close, and it keeps the zombies from entering. And they have these flashlights on their helmets, and they start making their way in this tunnel. It's just pitch black, you know. And as they're making their way, um, they don't notice the alpha that's in there, and the alpha tears the head off one of the Navy guys, and with his spine still attached, and he just tears it right off like it was nothing, and everyone's freaking out. One of them runs the other direction towards the gate to get out, but the other one, before he can do anything, gets smacked in the head by the head he just ripped out. He's using the spinal cord like a rope, and he's just like swinging that head, and he hits the guy, and he's a goner. And so there's only one left now. Only out of the whole eight Navy men that had machine guns and like, you know, their military, they get demolished. It's crazy. They get instantly demolished. So only one gets out. And so then it cuts back to Spike and the mom, and they're out in the fields. And, you know, there's, as they're kind of just sitting and resting, there's one zombie that sneaks up behind the mom, and Spike notices. It's a really slow one. And like he notices, takes his bow and arrow and shoots it and kills it. And as they look, there's like eight more a little bit further. That's like they're running towards them. So they got to get up and start running. And so they get up and start running, and they make their way to a gas station. What's funny about the gas station is it's a Shell gas station, like the yellow gas station with the Shell. What I thought was funny and a really interesting eye to detail was that the S had fallen off from the sign, you know, and it just said hell. So I thought that was really funny. Um, so they make their way to this gas station because they're being chased by zombies, and they're like right behind them. They're like about to catch him. So he's able to get in the gas station, close it. But the gas station inside the gas station, I guess there was a gas leak because the whole room was filled with like this gas in the air, and it was high up. It wasn't like down below. There was nothing, but high up, you could see like I don't know what it is, benzene or something like just some gas in the air. And so they're being chased by zombies. Spike loses all of his all his bows. I mean arrows. He drops them. He's panicking. He picks up a fire hydrant thing and starts like smacking one of the zombies that's like attacking them. Yeah, and they're about to die because you know, they're the zombies are overwhelming. They're gonna pretty much just overwhelm them and catch up to him. But they're also being affected by the gas. The gas is like really affecting the coordination like of the zombies, and they can't like they're just like ugh. So the one military guy that escaped that whole crazy attack, they cross paths. He's actually on the roof of the gas station, and he looks down. He sees that like the kid and the mom are being attacked. So he opens this like little window that's in the roof, whatever, and he shoots like one of the zombies, and the whole thing explodes. Like all the gas catches fire, and the kid and the mom like duck to the floor because there's no gas on the ground, and the air just lights up like a big explosion, and all the zombies catch fire, and they're all burning now, and they all just burn to death. And the mom and Spike, like, they get out of the gas station, they're just gasping for air, and they're coughing and vomiting because of the gas they were smelling and of the explosion that just happened. Their ears were ringing. They were just like, they were just like sick. And so they meet the guy, the military Navy guy that saved him. And at first, it's a kind of a weird confrontation because the Navy guy is like, well, what do we do now? Like, where do we go? Because he's the whole island's quarantined, and the reason he saved these two natives to the island was to seek help, but he didn't realize that the Spike and Isla were on their way to see a doctor, and so he's like, what's like I helped you, now you can't help me, like what's this? So eventually he tells him, yeah, there's a village, and we got to go see a doctor first, and once we go see the doctor, we'll take you back to the village. And so, they help each other out. They're on their way to go see the doctor, and they make their way to a train that's been like derailed or whatever, right? And there's some screams coming from the train. The mom, for some reason, is curious and like goes in the train, and there's this zombie that's pregnant, and you're just like, okay, this is just getting really freaky and weird. And the mom doesn't have the instinct to run. The mom has the instinct to go towards this pregnant zombie that's about to have a baby. And the zombie's like, at first wants to attack the mom, but she's in so much like labor pain, the zombie is, that she like really pays no attention to the mom. And so the mom, Spike's mom, puts her hands out like this in front of her, right? And the zombie takes the hands like you would like any human would do or something when you're in a lot of pain or about to have birth, and they're just holding hands, and the zombie is just like there's a baby coming out of its like you know the area, and the baby's coming out and you see it, and they're just holding holding hands, and like the zombie's holding her hands really tight, and you're just like, what is happening here? This is like insane. And that's exactly how the Navy guy was reacting. He was seeing the whole thing. Like, when Spike and the Navy guy catch up to her, and they're like, "What the heck is going on here? Like, this is insanity. Like, that's a zombie. What are you doing?" And the Navy guy is about to shoot like everybody because he's just like, "This is messed up. This is like seriously messed up." So the baby comes out, and you're expecting like a zombie baby, but it turns out the baby was infected. It was a normal, healthy baby girl, all that stuff, and that's that's the craziest part in the movie. You like that's a head scratcher, right? It's like, okay. So they have the baby, and the Navy guy's freaking out. He's like, "We got to kill that baby. It's a freaking zombie baby." And the mom is like, "No, it's perfectly healthy. There's like it looks healthy. It doesn't look like it's been zombified." The Navy guy's freaking out. he kills the mom, the pregnant woman, the pregnant zombie eventually kills her because they once she like because she goes out of conscious. She falls out of conscious and like for a second and then comes back. And when it comes back, it's like trying to attack the mom. And so the Navy guy just shoots her up into a million pieces. And so he's freaking out. He's like, "You got to put that baby down because that's a freaking zombie baby. I'm gonna freaking shoot and kill it." And the mom is like, "No, it's perfectly healthy," and it was. You could see that it was like a healthy, normal baby girl. And so he's freaking out, and he's like doing a countdown, like, "I'm gonna shoot that baby, and if you don't move out of the way, you're going down with her." Like he's like 3, 2, and then he's kind of stepping back, and as he does, this freaking alpha zombie like reaches down and grabs him. Oops, sorry. He grabs him and pulls him up like to the roof of the train, pulls him out, and you don't see him anymore. He just got pulled up, and you're just like, holy shit. And the next thing you know, big alpha zombie jumps down and he's holding the head of the Navy guy with his spine cord dangling, and the big alpha guy is like really freaking huge. She's like really intimidating. And so Spike gets his bow and starts shooting at him, and he's like, "Mom, run, run." So the mom starts making her way to the back of the train, and Spike's running back, and he's like shutting the doors, as he's running back. But the alpha is like, he's smart. He's smart. He's powerful. He's just opening the doors and just going through. And Spike was able to shoot him a couple times and is able to like run out of the train and start running towards the field. And then the alpha zombie, does the same thing. He just goes through a door outside the train and starts running towards Spike, and Spike falls. And the alpha zombie is about to kill Spike, but before he does that, before he's able to kill and reach Spike, the doctor appears. What's his name? What's his name? Doctor. I can't remember his name. But the doctor comes out. He's covered in iodine, like red, this red like stuff. He's just covered in it, and he tells him later that it's because it helps the infection stay away. Like the zombie infection doesn't like iodine, so he's covered head to toe in it. But what he does is he shoots this dart into the alpha zombie, and it's just like a concoction that he made that makes the zombie pretty much go in like a really sleepy daze, like immediately. And so he shoots him with that. Spike's on the ground. He's terrified. He thought he was going to die, and the doctor's there. He's really polite. He's really nice. And he's like explaining why he's covered in iodine. He's explaining how he was able to like put the zombie to sleep, you know, and he introduces himself as the doctor. And so Spike is relieved. He's like, "Oh man, what up, sample of ham? Welcome back." But he's relieved. He's completely relieved that the doctor shows up just at the right time to save their lives. And so they finally meet. The doctor takes them back to his like place. And what you see is pretty crazy, pretty insane. It's pretty, at the same time, it's pretty cool. But essentially, the doctor has spent 13 years building like a church out of all the human bones that like all the people that got turned into zombies or died. He took all their bodies and like flesh, I mean the bodies, and he burnt all the flesh off and purified the bones and made like these structures that are like Stonehenge like, he's got all these like poles built out of bones that are sticking up, and then there's in the center of this thing is like a pyramid of skulls, essentially, like a really small little pyramid of skulls. And it says like he built this as a way to honor the dead, on the island and whatnot. And so you're in this really strange place. It's like a church almost, and so they meet. Finally, the doctor looks at the mom because Spike. That's the reason why Spike came to the doctor to see if you know if there's a cure for what she has. And it turns out, after diagnosing her and checking on her, he finds out. Yeah, it's like the crypt in Paris. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, in a lot of ways. Just not in a tunnel, but just like out there on the lands, right? Um, it turns out that she has got cancer and it like spread all like down to her body and and it's a cancer in her brain, and that's why she's always confused and just like is in and out and in a lot of pain. And so the doctor pretty much what he does is he gives Spike a moment with his mom to like remind him that like you know that like yes we all must die, but we all must love as well. And he gives the mom like a mercy death. So essentially what he does is he kills the mom in a very painless way. I think he shoots the mom with a dart that's like poisonous, and I guess it ends up killing her. And when Spike comes to, because Spike was also hit with a dart, but it was a dart to make him sleepy. And so when he wakes up and comes to, the mom has already been turned into skulls. Like what's left of the mom is a skull. And so, when Spike wakes up, he's just like he's pretty terrified, but he's also accepting of the fact that it was like her time to go, because otherwise she would have spent the rest of her life in horrible pain and just it would have been worse and worse and worse, right? So it was a very peaceful death for the mom, and it was just something that Spike had to accept. It was really hard for him to accept, but he accepted it. And so, hey, I appreciate all the love, man. But essentially, you know, the doctor tells Spike to put the skull in a very special place, pick a place on the pyramid. And so he climbs this pyramid of skulls and reaches the top and places his mom's skull at the very tip top of the pyramid and like facing the sun. And so that's what he does. And then like a bit later on, they have to go hide in this like room. Like it's a room that's underground. It's got like a gate that locks because the alpha zombie shows up and is like looking to like kill them all. And so the alpha zombie is like attacking them, trying to get through the gate, but he can't. And so he kind of walks away for a second and you're kind of relieved. But then the next thing you know, he freaking like a little bit to the right of the gate, he just punches through like the freaking ceiling and just grabs the doctor and is trying to like pretty much like suck him through the hole, right? Just like tear him up. And so Spike's freaking out. The doctor's freaking out because he's about to have his head torn out. Like in any second, his head is about to be torn out, and the doctor's freaking out. So Spike thinks quickly, and he pulls out one of the darts and like stabs the alpha zombie in the arm, and immediately goes numb, right? And so the doctor's relieved. He's like, "Thank you for saving my life." But he realizes I think the doctor realizes there's a weird connection with the alpha zombie and that baby. Like, I think it might be his baby, is what it seems like. So the doctor is like, I think it's time for you to go home and take the baby with you and get out of here, essentially, is what he's telling him. So Spike takes the baby with him back to the village and he leaves it there. And he leaves a note for his dad saying that kind of what happened and what he plans to do. The dad's freaking out, right? He gets this baby, he gets the message, and he like runs out the gates into the ocean. He's like yelling Spike. "Come back." Uh, but Spike decides not to return to the village, but to go into the mainlands because he just I don't know. He's just kind of it's really interesting for the fact that it's like a coming of age story of this boy becoming a man, in a lot of ways and facing death and like the reality of death and like how to get through that pain and whatnot. But essentially he decides to go on his own. He's like, I'm not gonna go back to my dad. I'm gonna go on my own and discover more things about the mainland. And so he's on his own. It's been and then it goes 28 days later and he's out on his own. He's cooking a fish and he gets attacked by zombies and he's like killing him pretty good. He's getting really good. He's not nervous, like how he was in the beginning of the movie. And so, but there's an overwhelming amount. So he starts running away, and he's like, as he's running, he comes to like a barrier, like somebody made a barrier of rocks that's like blocking the road, and so there's nowhere for him to go. And so He pulls out his bow and arrow and starts like shooting the zombies, and then this like this gang of these guys come out. They're all wearing like kind of like shiny like jumpsuits like this. It's kind of funny, and gold chains, and like they all have weapons. And there's this main guy who's got like a lot of gold chains, and he's like, you're a pretty good little warrior. Like, do you mind if we jump in and kill the rest of these zombies? And the kid's like, yeah, yeah, no problem. Go ahead and kill the rest of the zombies. Yeah, please. So they come in making flips and backflips, and like they're like jumping off the walls and smacking the crap out of the zombies, and they all have like different kinds of weapons to like slice the head off of them, and they bag one and like hang it upside down. And so when they take care of all the zombies, the head guy with all the gold chains, he introduces himself to Spike, and he's like, and what you see hanging on his chest is that gold chain with that gold cross from the beginning of the movie. It's Jimmy. It's Jimmy. Like Jimmy was a kid, beginning of the movie, his dad's a priest, and like handed this gold chain with the cross to Jimmy as a kid. He was hiding there. So now we see 28 years later, we finally meet Jimmy. We finally get to meet him, and he's all grown up, and he has these gold chains. But what's funny is he's wearing that gold cross, but it's hanging upside down. I thought that was really funny. And so Spike meets Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, I think we should become pals. And that's where the movie ends. That's where the movie ends. That's it. You don't get any more after that. So it ends with like an open ending. Although I like the use of Jimmy as like bookends to the whole movie, the book in the beginning and the book in, I guess, book ends. I don't know. Yeah, one at the beginning and one at the end. But so it's interesting that you get introduced to this Jimmy character, and then 28 years later, you get introduced to Spike, and there's a whole story about Spike and how he meets Jimmy at the end of the movie. So, and we never get to know who Jimmy is. We're just like, what's going on? So, it was a little bit satisfying to meet Jimmy finally, because the whole time there's like little references about him and stuff, but you're just like, what? Like, why show us Jimmy in the beginning of the movie? Like, why? What was the point of that? So now we meet Jimmy as an adult. Spike meets Jimmy, and that's where the movie ends. And that it's not really answered who Jimmy is and why he's important, but obviously he's like a warrior of some sorts, and he's like, he's the head of a gang, it seems like. Um, so I don't know. There could be another movie. There could be another movie about Jimmy and Spike, and who knows? Or that's just how it ends. But anyways, that's the whole movie from beginning to end. That's the whole plot. And when you watch it, you'll pick up more things about the little things that like Jimmy leaves behind that you see. Um, but essentially, a lot of the dialogue's really good. It's very introspective. They go like really deep into conversations, and different things. But there you go. That's the whole movie from beginning to end. I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix right now. Um, so I enjoyed it, even though I had to pause it 3 times and walk away like a few times because it was too intense. It was too scary, too intense. But I enjoyed it. So if you like this movie review and me going over the plot and some of the characters, give me a thumbs up. I am trying to build a channel that helps me out, as they always say. And it's true. It does. It does. I have this goal this year that I gave myself to reach 1,000 subscribers, and I promised Sample of a Ham to give you a scream. I promise you that. So I'm going to give you a scream. So stick around for that. I'm just going to give you my little spiel, and then I'm going to give you a scream. Okay. I'm going to give you a really good scream. Right. But my goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'm like at 968, 969, whatever. I'm very close, very close. I'm only like 31 subscribers away from hitting 1,000. So, but here's the deal: I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to release my movie. I made a movie. It took me 15 years to make. It's a homage to movies like The Outsiders, Rumblefish, what else? Mean Streets, movies like that. It's a big, big homage to movies like that. And so it took me 15 years to make. I'm gonna release it on my channel. It'll be free. You can watch it. Again, I'm no Scorsese, but it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of dedication. So help me reach 1,000 subscribers. I will release my movie on here, and you can watch it for free. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you watch it, and all that stuff. Anyways, I promised Sample of Ham that I would give him a scream. I hope I don't freak out my neighbors, but here you go. I'm gonna give you a really good scream. You ready? Ah! There you go. Ah, there's my scream. I promised you I would give you a scream, Sample of Ham. There it was. There it was. I hope you didn't miss it. Well, I'm gonna repost this once the live is done. And it takes like a day to process. I'll repost the video, and you can check out my scream there at the end. Dude, I probably freaked out my neighbors. I bet, dude, I'm sure I freaked out somebody with that yell. I'm sure somebody heard it, and somebody is probably freaked out. But I promised you I'd give you a yell, and I did it. So there you go. You can't say I didn't do it. So, anyways, I hope you like my movie review. I want to try to do more of them. Probably like not every night, but every other night that I come on YouTube and do it. So like every other night, I'll do a usually same time, 11 to midnight Central Standard Time. I'm here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'll be doing movie reviews. I'll give you my thoughts, what I thought about it, the whole plot, the characters and all that stuff. So, anyways, yeah, I'll be seeing you around, folks. I'm glad you got to watch this. If you enjoyed it, and all that stuff, I really appreciate it. And yeah, see you soon. Till next time, folks. I'll be seeing you soon. Have a good night.